Hey, hello. This is Chris Goodman. Harmful algal blooms in Texas. Prepared and presented by Chris Goodman for UNT Dallas Biology 1132. What are harmful algal blooms? According to Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, algae are microscopic plants that are usually aquatic, single celled, and lacking true stems, roots, and leaves. Algal blooms occur in both marine and freshwater environments when a species of algae reproduce rapidly. A bloom may a bloom may even discolor the water due to the large number of algal cells. A harmful algal bloom is a bloom that produces toxins which are detrimental to plants and animals. According to a pamphlet released by Texas Department of State Health Services, harmful algae blooms occur when algae reproduce rapidly in bodies of fresh and marine water. One kind of harmful algae bloom is caused by a blue-green algae, also known as cyanobacteria. Cyanobacterial blooms occur naturally in fresh water when they multiply to high densities, which may be visible as scum, mats, and discoloration, found mostly on the surface of fresh water. Both harmful algal blooms and cyanobacterial blooms are collectively referred to as HABs. Numerous cyanobacterial genera can form blooms at specific light intensities and depths. Certain conditions such as warm and still water, high nutrient levels, and abundant sunlight can make these organisms reproduce rapidly. Cyanobacteria can produce toxins called cyanotoxins that can harm human and animal health. Cyanobacteria releases toxins into the water, and this occurs more when their cells die and break apart. However, cyanobacteria do not always produce cyanotoxins, and the environmental conditions that cause cyanotoxins to produce are not fully understood. Therefore, identification of a bloom does not necessarily correlate with toxicities. In addition to toxic effects, the high biomass of blooms can kill fish and plant populations by causing low oxygen levels in the water or by being dense enough to prevent sunlight from reaching the lower depths of the water. How have they affected communities in Texas? In 2019, the Texas Tribune reported mysterious blooms of blue-green algae which killed 5 dogs who went swimming in canine-friendly Austin. If you remember from the pamphlet, the blue-green algae is the cyanobacteria which produces the cyanotoxins. After months, the capital city still had signs up warning of ongoing dangerous conditions in Lady Bird Lake. Freezing temperatures eventually killed off the visible blooms, according to city officials, but they still say that the popular waterway poses a threat. Scientists say there's still much that they don't understand about the recent emergence of toxic algae blooms, but they're already predicting the problem is bound to get worse in the coming summers as climate change furthers once unusual weather conditions. They said it's also increasingly likely that more cities and towns with stagnant waters and hot summers could find themselves in the same situation as Austin. So far, city officials don't have a way to combat future algae blooms. In 2021, Spectrum News 1 of El Paso reported a neurotoxin was found in the Austin area and is considered highly poisonous as it killed several dogs in February of 2021. But there's little research on its health effects in humans. Scientists are further researching chronic toxicity as well as cancer in humans and animals exposed to HABs. Studying toxic algae is a full-time job for environmental scientist Dr. Brent Bellinger. He works for the City of Austin Watershed Protection Department. When News 1 caught up with him, he was at Ladybird Lake collecting water samples, monitoring water conditions, and deploying data loggers. When the algae is present and when they go toxic, then we can put all of this data into a model and determine, what are the set of conditions that promote that algae growth, Dr. Bellinger said. This information will help the city determine long-term solutions to combat nutrient pollution. EPA data shows toxic algae bloom are increasing because of fossil fuels, sewage and wastewater, and fertilizer and industrial factories. There are about 15,000 water bodies in the U.S. with nutrient-related problems. Reports of drinking water violations for nitrates have nearly doubled in the last decade. In this evaluation, the EPA determined nutrient pollution is one of America's most serious water pollution issues today. Despite all of this, the CDC reports there are no federal guidelines, water quality standards, or regulations for toxic algae in drinking water or recreational use. There is also very little research into the short-term and long-term effects of these toxins in humans. What are the government agencies doing? In my previous slide, I read articles which mentioned a lack of federal guidelines and a city's attempts to keep dogs out of water with signs. I decided to look deeper into Texas's response to harmful algal blooms. According to the pamphlet released by Texas Department of State Health Services, in Texas, currently there is no specific state statute related to harmful algal blooms or a state agency tasked with regulating harmful algal blooms. Often the response falls on local governments and health departments. The United States Geological Survey's Texas Water Science Center currently works in cooperation with river authorities, municipalities, groundwater districts, and state and federal agencies to evaluate and track algal blooms and to provide scientific information to resource planners and managers. What can I do to keep myself safe? If you look here, we've got algal blooms, non-toxic algae blooms in plants on the left side here, and then cyanobacteria and HABs. This is what they look like. Just kind of study this as I talk through how you can keep yourself safe and your family and animals. So according to the DSHS pamphlet, the public may be exposed to cyanotoxins in recreational fresh water by incidental ingestion, dermal contact, or inhalation of tiny airborne deposits or mist during activities such as swimming and wading. Another route of exposure is the consumption of fish caught from cyanotoxin contaminated water. Although there have been no reports of people becoming sick from eating freshwater fish caught during a harmful algal bloom, fish organs should be discarded before consumption and fillets rinsed with tap or bottled water to avoid cyanotoxin exposure. Studies have shown that microcystins bioaccumulate up to 20 times in fish liver and other internal organs compared to the fish muscle. Pets, livestock, and wildlife can be exposed to cyanotoxins through direct contact, drinking contaminated water, or ingesting algal mats. Dogs are at a greater risk than people because they are more likely to drink contaminated water, swim in it, and ingest algae or scum from their fur after swimming. Animals exposed to cyanotoxins could experience symptoms such as vomiting, fatigue, excessive salivation, difficulty breathing, and neurological symptoms such as convulsions and staggered walking. Liver failure and death can occur hours to days following exposure to high levels of cyanobacterial toxins. If you notice your dog ingesting any blue-green algae water or swimming in it, please take them to your local vet. Here are my sources. They can be found in the description of this video, and thank you all for watching.